This podcast serves Middle Tennessee every weekday morning, and it's made possible by member support. Learn how you can make a difference at WPLN.org/support.
This is the Nash Villager Podcast. It's October 6th, 2025. On this day in 1919, a Clarksville woman named Brenda Vineyard Runyon made history by opening up First Women's Bank. That's the actual name of the bank, but it's also an accurate description of what it was. Runyon was the bank president, and all of the staff were female, too. It would be almost another year before American women won the right to vote, but Runyon wasn't waiting. And neither were her customers. According to the Tennessee Encyclopedia, $20,000 were deposited in the first day of operations. Now, the bank did not cater exclusively to women, but it did actively encourage women to save and invest. Unfortunately, when health problems forced Runyon to step down, nobody else stepped into the role of president. First Women's Bank was absorbed into First Trust and Savings Bank of Clarksville. But in a way, through that merger and a string of several more, an echo of that groundbreaking financial institution can still be felt in Middle Tennessee as part of Bank of America. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. I wonder if Brenda Runyon ever dared to dream of a time when female bank presidents were as common as male ones. To be honest, she sounds like the kind of person who's probably so busy doing things in the moment that she may not have had time to let her imagination stretch that far into the future. And let's be honest, if she had imagined women would achieve parity in that line of work within, say, the century, she'd be wrong. It's been 106 years since she opened her bank. And according to a report that came out earlier this year, women now make up just 16% of the leadership at financial institutions around the world. Now, that figure comes from the London-based think tank OMFIF's annual analysis of gender balance in the banking world. It did note growth in the number of women heading up banks and pension funds. That 16% is an all-time high. But the rate of growth has cooled down, and the rollback on concerted efforts to increase diversity in the industry threatens to further slow or even stop that progress. The threat is especially strong in the U.S., with the trend of pulling away from anything that could be seen as DEI. And the U.S. already lags behind the global average. We don't have 16% female leadership in finance here. Data released last year by the American Banking Association says only 7.5% of banks in this nation are led by females. That's less than the rate of female leadership for Fortune 500 companies, which is just over 10%. Which is not to say there aren't any efforts to encourage women in the financial world. In fact, a little later this month, the Tennessee Bankers Association is holding its annual Women in Banking Conference. It's about a day's worth of meetings, one afternoon, the following morning, at a hotel in downtown Chattanooga. A chance for women who found success in the field to offer encouragement, support, and knowledge to others trying to move up that ladder. But a day of meetings, that can only do so much. Now, I got my bachelor's degree at a women's college. That kind of institution seems to be going the way of the dodo, and my own alma mater is co-ed now. And I get the reasons why a lot of young women don't choose single-gender education. It's not right for everyone. But sometimes I wish everyone in any kind of group that tends to lack representation could have one aspect of my college experience. Not that I appreciated it in the moment. I mean, I truly didn't think anything of it at the time. But for 4 years, everywhere I looked around me on campus, in every degree program, every student group, the smartest, most accomplished people in the room were all female. The best at math and science and student government, all of them women. And they weren't just doing great because they didn't have to compete with guys. They truly were doing incredible work, the kind that earned their admission to impressive graduate programs or that propelled them into careers that I can see now have led to C-suites or publishing in important journals. I've commiserated about this with people I know who went to HBCUs, who say it was a similar experience for them, just with the factor of race instead of gender. The lasting impact of that experience can be a little painful, but very valuable, which is that After being in such a total immersion, when you graduate and go back into the wider world, you very quickly hone in on the lack of people like you finding success in many businesses, organizations. It's there for anyone to see at any time. But that contrasting experience helps really shine a spotlight on the lack of parity in a vivid and glaring way. And it serves as a perpetual reminder that it doesn't have to be this way. The journey to a CEO's office begins a million steps prior, when a student is deciding what to study, who to seek out as a mentor, where to apply for that first job, when to cut bait and apply for a job somewhere else. There are countless points along the way that can push someone with tremendous leadership potential onto a different career track, or even out of an industry altogether. And those numbers from the American Banking Association seem to paint a picture of exactly that. They point out that women graduate with college degrees at a higher rate than men. And in the industry as a whole, they account for a full 50% of the workforce. Women in the banking field tend to show more indicators of ambition than men do. So they have the training, they get that early experience, they show a hunger to move forward. And yet, from the very start, the industry tends to promote more men than women for every move up the ladder. Eventually, after seeing that happen enough times, why wouldn't the average woman eventually either change to a different kind of job or find some other kind of outlet to feed her hunger for achievement? I mean, she can read the room. She knows when she's not wanted. Other numbers suggest banks suffer when they don't want to promote women. Banks with women on their board of directors tend to do better. The revenue to expense ratios are higher, they see a greater return on assets, stronger growth on the stock market, and better regulatory compliance. Not that a pair of X chromosomes magically makes things work more smoothly, but increasing the range of mindsets and experiences on that leadership team certainly helps the group consider more strategy options, notice more details, and just generally rounds things out in a productive way. And my mind just goes back to that short-lived Clarksville bank. First Women's operated with a totally female staff and all-female leadership at a time when few women even had their own bank accounts. And they showed what they could do. The best at everything in that bank, the best teller, the best bank official, the best loan officer, all women. And the bank did great. The only thing that could stop it, and the thing that did stop it, was the lack of a pipeline to prepare ambitious younger talent to take over when the leadership position opened up. Wow, that sounds familiar. In just a few minutes, a push to restore plants and pollinators in the Ohio River Basin. That's coming up after the newscast.
Tennessee's legislature has passed a record-breaking number of anti-LGBTQ laws. I'm Mariana Baca-Yao, and as WPLN's Power and Equity reporter, I focus not only on how marginalized communities contend with those new laws, but how they come together in spite of them.
I think what gives me hope is that someone like you is covering this. Because if the overwhelming narrative is one of defeat, how can we have hope?
Listen here on 90.3 WPLN News.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. One of 4 Republican frontrunners in Tennessee's special congressional primary has dropped out of the race. Freshman lawmaker Lee Reeves had raised more than $250,000 as part of his campaign, putting him just behind former Tennessee Commissioner Matt Van Epps. Reeves has now ended his campaign and endorsed Van Epps. That decision was announced after President Donald Trump broke his silence and finally made an endorsement in the special congressional race. Trump joined Governor Bill Lee, former Congressman Mark Green, and now Lee Reeves, in endorsing Matt Van Epps to replace Green. The primary election is tomorrow. Due to the late date of his decision, Reeves' name will remain on the ballot alongside 8 other Republican candidates. That includes anti-school voucher candidate Jody Barrett, who represents Dixon in the State House, and Gino Bolso, who represents Franklin. With that special primary happening tomorrow, WPLN's Mariana Baca-Yao reports on what to know.
Tennessee's District 7 is considered reliably Republican, despite new maps including parts of West Nashville, which leans Democratic. Competition for the GOP nomination is stiff, with nearly a dozen candidates. A majority of the frontrunners are state lawmakers. Out-of-state groups have poured a lot of money into the Republican primary, particularly to oppose an anti-school voucher candidate. The Democratic side of the race features 3 state lawmakers, along with 1 Nashville businessman. Whichever primary you're voting in, you'll need to bring a driver's license or a passport. If you haven't registered, it's too late for the primary, but not too late for the general election on December 2nd. Miriam Yao, WPLN News.
Polls open across Middle and West Tennessee in the morning for the primary election. If you don't know your district, you can find a full rundown on the candidates and how to vote at WPLN.org. The company building a pair of tunnels between Nashville International Airport and downtown has fully equipped its launch site near the state capitol. The lot, which they're leasing for free from the state, now has a full-size exploratory pit to assess the area's geology, along with trailers and power from Nashville Electric Service. They've also installed shoring for the launch pit and assembled an important part of the conveyor system that will remove rock and dirt as they dig. The boring machine will be the last thing to arrive on site before they start tunneling. The boring company's planning and permitting are underway. It's coordinating with TDOT, the City of Nashville, and local utilities to develop their design. The company says they'll need 45 separate permits to construct the tunnels, not including the above-ground stations. An environmental impact assessment is also underway, and the company says it will post the results on its website when it's complete. Greystar and 25 other property management companies have agreed to pay $141 million to settle a class action lawsuit. Some of the plaintiffs are tenants in Tennessee. The proposal was filed last week in one of Tennessee's federal courts. The class action suit accused landlords of driving up their prices with rent-setting algorithms that used private information. South Carolina-based Greystar manages more than 900,000 units nationally and will pay $50 million under the proposal. The deal still needs a judge's approval. The companies involved in the settlement deny any wrongdoing. The Tennessee Department of Education is not sharing how many students are enrolled in the new statewide voucher program. And as Chalkbeat Tennessee reports, that makes it hard to tell if the program is working as intended. Governor Bill Lee said it would expand private school access, but critics point out that no one is tracking how many vouchers are going to students who were already enrolled in private schools. When the program was launched in May, 33,000 families applied in the first few hours. But little more information has been released since, like how many students were enrolled in the program over summer and how many were waitlisted. State Representative Caleb Hemmer, a Nashville Democrat, is considering filing a lawsuit against the department to push for more transparency. Nashville publicist Tamara Saviano says Americana music is still hard to pin down. Sometimes it's artists who don't fit neatly into other genres, but simply being an outsider isn't enough.
We're not just taking people that can't get played on country radio. They actually have to have talent. They actually have to be able to write a song. You know, like Raul Malo said, we're like the land of misfit toys. But it's not just if you're a misfit. You actually have to be able to back it up.
Saviano got involved with Americana music after being fired from cable TV network Great American Country. She became the first woman president of the Americana Music Association. And she talks about her new book, Poets and Dreamers, on today's episode of This is Nashville. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. The Tennessee River is the largest tributary into the Ohio River Basin, and that basin has gotten a new environmental plan led by the University of Louisville and partners. They recommend dozens of solutions to restore and protect the region's water quality and aquatic habitats. The Kentucky Center for Investigative Reporting's Morgan Watkins has the story.
On a recent afternoon, I walked through a butterfly-filled field at the Garvin Brown Preserve in Prospect. I'm here with members of River Fields, the nonprofit that manages the land.
So you'll probably hear and see a lot of birds as we come through here. If you look on eBird, this is a birding hotspot. We've had 207 species documented.
That's CEO Kristen Forrest. She says the property, which borders the Ohio River, was once a family farm. Now it's growing wild and conserving ecologically important wetlands.
And this is exactly, an example of the kind of place that this plan seeks to support and restore and nurture.
The new Ohio River Basin Restoration Plan aims to win sustained funding and action from the federal government to safeguard the region's waters and aquatic habitats. Forrest says attracting more federal aid could help conservation groups like hers. Looking ahead, she sees the restoration plan as a legacy project for our future generations. Restoring habitats that are under threat across the Ohio River Basin isn't just about protecting native fish and wildlife. It's also about helping humans.
It's hard to imagine that anything bad will happen by investing in restoring our ecology to a natural, more resilient state.
That's Ted Smith, who contributed to the restoration plan. He's an environmental health researcher with the University of Louisville's Envirome Institute. He told me the study of how natural ecologies can benefit human health is a relatively new frontier for science, but he thinks there's good reason to believe restoring the health of the Ohio River and its tributaries will also improve the health of nearby communities.
Not only are we going to work on a natural amenity that people value, they like to be able to go fishing and they like hiking and they like all those things, but could we also get the benefit of actually living a little longer with fewer diseases, lower cancer rates, better heart disease outcomes? That's what excites us.
The restoration plan includes dozens of recommendations. One big goal is to reconnect networks of streams that were disconnected as humans reshaped them to meet agricultural and industrial needs. Another is to fight invasive species through early detection efforts, so we catch them before they choke out important native species. Back at the Garvin Brown Preserve, biologist and Riverfields consultant Gina Bergner pushes aside plant stalks to show me the native vegetation they're working to nurture, like ironweed and buttonbush. Then there are the invasive plants they're trying to root out.
This is purple loosestrife, ridiculously invasive. Each plant can produce about 5 million seeds. Once it's here, it's very hard to control. It's smart for Riverfields to get on it early and hit it hard.
Bergner has spent years walking this nature preserve and watching the conservation efforts progress.
These wetlands are reforested. I mean, literally in about 20 years, I've seen this complete transformation. The pollinator fields over here, this was all hay. Just the fact that the native plants have come back and taken over the hay fields, and now it's pollinator fields, to me, it's just like magic.
Some of the environmental work Riverfields does on this land fits into the goals laid out in the new Ohio River Restoration Plan. Many other groups are making similar efforts throughout the region, but this plan envisions new ways to bring them together, to share information, coordinate, and maximize their impact. A united effort to protect the Ohio River Basin. For LPM News, I'm Morgan Watkins in Prospect.
This reporting is made available thanks to the Appalachia Mid-South Newsroom, which is an effort to collaborate between NPR and 7 public radio stations, including WPLN, across 3 states. Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville and regional news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. And tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.